Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the LaunchDay Shorts podcast. I'm your host, Dean Cvetkoski, a.k.a. WhoDean, and today in studio, we have the warm welcome of Alice Hoang. Alice, how are you going today?
Hi, Dean. How are you? I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
You're very, very welcome. I'm doing really well myself. And look, Alice, we've crossed paths a number of times, over however many months have gone past, but we haven't really had a good opportunity to get to know each other, get to know what we do. And for me, I feel like I don't know too much about what you do, and I'm really keen to learn and explore. And the good thing about that as well is that all the people that are going to be watching this are also going to be curious as well as to who you are and what you do. Did you want to take us through a quick introduction on exactly who you are and what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to do that. Well, as you know, my name's Alice. I'm from Perth and I have a company called the H Project WA here, where we specifically build homes for people with disabilities using the NDIS scheme.
Mm-hmm.
And my business, I primarily focus on two areas. So, one is building homes that people with disabilities, they call them participants,
Mm-hmm.
can live in and tenant.
Mm-hmm.
And the second part, which is the more exciting part and the part that I'm really very passionate about, is helping these individuals use their SDA funding it through the NDIS to build their own homes, because that for us is our big passion project, to ensure that they can have their own homes that they can live in, that's theirs, that they can do whatever they want with it and have the security of knowing that they've got somewhere to live forever.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so if I understand this correctly, right? So you're helping people with disabilities to get into home ownership, right? Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, perfect. I kind of like that, right? Because for me, I'm always, to be honest, it's not something I ever thought about in terms of accessibility, right? And I'm a big advocate for looking at, certain minorities that may be disadvantaged in gaining access to those things in some way. And in that very same sentence, I feel like, because I do know a lot of people that are recipients of disability funding, like the NDIS, where they also have a lack of self confidence that they'll actually be able to, live that dream one day, where they'll be able to own their own home. There's a lot of doubt around that because of their conditions, because of what they're going through. Is that kind of what you're finding as well?
Yeah, look, definitely. I mean, I think for me, home ownership is just something that every Australian dreams of.
Mm,
It's a struggle for everyday people that have dual incomes to own their own home these days with, the way that property is going. So, when you then compound that with some other challenges that you've got, whether it's physical or mental challenges or all the different things that are all put into this melting pot,
mm,
that compounds the issue. And the thing is, a lot of these participants and people with a disability, they're disheartened,
mm,
and it's also then bolted on the challenge of the fact that their physical needs are actually more profound. You wouldn't even think of some of the homes that we build that, and you're thinking that's actually a really beautiful brand new home that we're building. But a lot of them are actually not suitable for their needs because
mm.
they can't get their wheelchair through it, or it's got a step and they can't walk up, and lots of different things like that you just don't even consider. So that just compounds the issue for them so much more.
I get you. I completely, as you're saying it, right? I'm visualizing every single time you say, like, oh, they might have a wheelchair and there's a step, and like I'm visualizing, what kind of challenges are presented in your everyday homes. And so, I mean, how are you finding it at the moment? Being able to, find I suppose, land that's available? Is it something where you go and you start building these houses straight away first, and then find people that would then purchase them and live in them? Or, is it a situation where, you're finding these candidates first and then they're coming to you, and then collectively you all go find one together? I mean, what's the kind of workflow for that?
Yeah, so look, what we try and do is we try and tailor it to an individual. It's no different to you and I wanting to build our own home. You know, we've all got specific requirements of where we want to live, where our support network is, the type of home we want to live in, our requirements. So we have a very personalised service where we work with a particular individual that's looking to build their own home. And once we understand their needs and their financial capacity, we go out there and we start the process for them.
Mm,
So that's the ideal situation that we like to operate in. We do have the other option as well, which we do have properties that have been completed that can be sold. We haven't gone down that path of actually selling them a completed home. Rather, we're keeping those, or investors are keeping those, for those that want to experience living in an accessible property that does meet all of their needs, just to try it out as well
mm,
before they go and purchase their own home. And if they do, because home ownership is not for everyone,
mm,
some people want it and some people don't.
mm.
So we have those two options.
I think for me, like, is in the current climate and market, I mean, I don't want to own a principal place of residency living in Sydney, right, because of the current housing market.
Yeah.
So I mean, I get that. Like, for me, I'm like, oh, I'd rather rent vest. I'd rather spend that money on investment properties instead of buying my own home. So I get that. How does, like, at what point does someone, with a disability, say, what, I don't want to own a home? Is that something that's common, and what kind of factors contribute to that decision, do you reckon?
Yeah, look, I think the difference in this is that I think a lot of people with a disability have never actually thought it would be possible. It's never even it's never even become a choice. They've never thought that it was going to be a possibility.
Mm,
The beauty about this scheme is it's called Specialist Disability Accommodation.
mm,
But the beauty about this is that it's an income source that people with disabilities, and we're talking about a very specific group of people with disabilities,
mm,
not everyone is going to qualify.
mm,
That is a bucket of money that a person that qualifies will get in their NDIS plan.
mm,
And it's an annualized amount of money, which is five, sometimes six figures.
mm,
Um, and that figure of money, the way it works is that if they were renting a property, an SDA property from somebody,
mm.
that amount of money in their plan actually goes to the person that owns that property.
Yeah, that's right.
How it will work is that the participant now has access to that bucket of money to actually use that to pay their mortgage. So
Mm,
therefore, it's not really the question about am I better off rent vesting or am I better off building my own home, because that particular participant actually can't access that money in a physical amount. They've either got to pay the investor that owns the property that they're renting from that figure,
mm.
or they can take that figure and use that to fund their mortgage payments for their home.
How does that work exactly, right? Because I'm very intrigued now, right? Very, very intrigued, and I've looked into investing in NDIS properties, properties adequate for NDIS, and then renting them out myself as a property investor. Obviously, in your case, you're building homes, you're working with them, and I actually love that, right? Because you've taken a concept that's existing, and then you've gone, well, why can't people with disabilities, why can't those people own the home instead if they're getting that money anyway? I love that. It's a beautiful thing that you've done. How does that? how does that work with, because I know with NDIS, you have to submit payments and things like that, issue invoices, then they pay it. Because like you said, it's not
Yeah,
like money that they have in a cash balance. It's money
yeah,
that's paid on their behalf. How does that work with the bank, with things like interest rates and interest rate rises and decreases? It's not as easy as doing a scheduled payment over at the NDIS headquarters.
yeah.
It fluctuates and changes every single month. So how do you, like, how does that, how are those things accommodated? How do those things work?
Yeah, it's a hugely complex process, and it's taken us a little while to work it out.
Mm,
But basically, how it works in a really simple terms perspective, it's literally treated the SDA payment that is assigned to an individual through their plan.
mm,
Once they have that in their plan, that's something that stays in their plan. It's a fixed amount, and every year it increases by CPI.
okay.
So once they've got that funding in their plan, we work with a very specific lender that do lots and lots of these loans
Mm,
specifically for individuals with this payment in their NDIS plan.
mm,
And they would assess it as income the same way as if you and I went to the bank and said, hey, we would like to borrow some money for a mortgage or a
mm,
construction loan in this particular case. Here is my PAYE income.
yeah.
And they'll do an assessment based on that. And obviously, the bank does what the bank does, and they've got all of these criterias and things in there to ensure that that's going to be sustainable over the 20 years that you've got your loan.
Mm,
The same thing happens with a particular individual with SDA funding. They'll take the SDA funding and they treat that as a PAYE income source.
yeah. Wow. So that
Yeah. So
was,
the good thing about
yeah.
that source of income is that it's not taxable.
Mm,
So it's a complete income source that can be then used, and from that, the bank will do its modelling to say, based on the income you've received from the NDIS in your plan, this is how much money you can borrow in totality.
mm, mm, mm,
And
mm,
that's kind of how it works. And it's the same thing as going for a normal bank loan for a house, but only with some very specific lenders that understand this space. So if
mm.
anyone wants to kind of go out to their normal CBA or whatever it is and said, hey, I want to do this, they'll just look at you and just go,
They'll
what are you
shake their
talking
head.
about?
Yeah,
Not,
yeah.
yeah, it's
And
not
that's,
a commonly understood
that
principle.
was going to be my next question, is right, Alice. I was going to say, like, is it just any bank? Like, any bank will accept this form of income, but like you've just said, it's very specific lenders. I'd say second or third tier lenders that are sort of saying, okay, we're open to this. And I don't even think, correct me if I'm wrong, there wouldn't just be any second or third tier lenders. Like, what you're saying is that there is a specialized lender out there specifically for this purpose.
Yes, there's probably two specialized lenders out there that specifically do this and understand this and support it as
Hmm.
well. Because they see that this is a great contribution that they can make to people's lives.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Like, I really actually love what you're doing, because what I really appreciate is people that actually go out of their way to focus on a particular niche that inspires and benefits other Australians. There's a lot of people that go out there and they don't have any sort of underlying cause to what they do, and it's really beautiful to hear what you're doing, and that's enabling these people with disabilities to have access to those dreams of owning a home. I think that's a beautiful thing. So well done, Alice. That's amazing, honestly.
Yeah, no, thank you. So I'm really, really hoping that we do have the opportunity to change many, many lives in this process. I think financing is obviously one area, but there are challenges along the way in every single part of this process, right from finding land that is suitable, because
Mm,
not every single block of land is. Some are steeper than others. They need to
mm,
be flat and meet certain requirements. There's the building and the design of the home. So, we've got to meet some certain design guidelines, which are quite different to normal standard homes, right through to the process of financing, picking all the beautiful fixtures and fittings that are going to go through that whole process,
mm.
working with the right builders, making sure that, timeframes are adhered to. So, it is a very stressful process. It's a very stressful process for everyday, Australians who are building their own homes. So when you then overlay that with the challenges of having a disability, but then also having 3 or 4 different guidelines and codes that all don't talk to each other, that compounds the issue.
What would be your
So yeah,
message, Alice, to people who, who? I'll start that again. What would be your message, Alice, to people with NDIS, or recipients of NDIS? What would be your message to them, going through life and sort of having those hopes and dreams of one day owning a home? What would be your message to them? Hey, yes, you. I'm talking to you. And I know it looks like the interview, but it's actually not. We're taking a really quick, short break so that way you can hear me out. I really want you to hear me out here. If you are a business owner, you are building your personal brand. I mean, you could be anyone. You could be a real estate agent, you could be an astronaut, an IT professional. It really doesn't matter who you are and where you fit into the world. This interview is great for you. If you're really struggling to make content, and let's face it, right? When we get our phones out and we're like, taking selfies and doing videos that way, it just comes across as inauthentic. And the other side of that as well is the fact that it's just so hard to come up with ideas of what kind of content to create. And this is where our interviews absolutely bring a powerhouse and an arsenal of, basically a war chest in terms of your organic content marketing that you're creating. We create the TikToks and Reels for you. Here's the thing. I've got some great news. The great news is that this interview is completely free. We boost your SEO on Google because we go and feature these videos like the one you're watching on YouTube. And not only that, but we also give you free content to post to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and all the rest of it as well. So if you haven't already, in the description down below is a link to Linktree where you'll see the opportunity for you to book your very own interview and get free content for your personal brand or your business as well. I'll see you on the other side of the screen.
I would just say go and do it. That's absolutely what I would say. I'd say go and do it. Go and ask the question. There are lots of people whose primary job is to help participants achieve their goals and build capacity, and that's the whole point of the NDIS. It's all about ensuring that people's functional needs are being met and that their life goals are being supported. So there's a plethora of people out there that's their job. So go and ask the question. Go and ask the question. Don't accept no. Go and find out how it's possible. And if you get somebody that tells you it's not, look for someone else. That would be my message to them: is if that's your dream, go and chase it.
I love that. I love that. Look, this brings us to a very, very good question to ask, right, Alice? And that is, what compelled you to get into this? What compelled you to move into this?
Oh, look, Dean, I actually stumbled upon this by accident. So, my background's obviously in property, and I started off just doing property developments. And a mentor of mine, he actually raised specialist disability accommodation to me a while back. And then I went to a conference, and there was a lady that was presenting, and she came on stage. She was in a wheelchair, and she had one arm. So she had no legs and just literally had one arm.
Yeah, wow.
And she talked about her story. So this particular lady, she'd achieved all these things in her life. She's actually been given an Order of Australia, so that she's achieved some great things. And one of the things that I took away from that her speech and her talk was that she might have achieved all these amazing things in her life and overcome all these adversities, but yet she actually does not live in a home that is accessible for her needs.
Oh, wow.
And that was her story. So, and then that got me thinking, and kind of this led to that. We started exploring the area, building a couple of these homes, and actually, a gentleman approached me and said, "Hey, if I wanted to build my own home, how do I do it?" And I was like, I don't know. Can you? So I started researching it, and as a result, have formed a really great process and project management capacity to be able to do this for people that want it and to support them through the process. So we've got people and consultants and trades and all the different people that are required that will support the process for somebody wanting to own their own homes. And yeah, I just fell into it because I just thought, every Australian deserves their own home. And this comes from my background as well. I was an immigrant coming to Australia, and my parents, both of them, they don't really speak English very well. I didn't learn to speak English properly until I was 9. So, even though I might look like I don't have a disability, that in itself was a big disability. And I was different. I grew up in Perth, and back in those days, Perth isn't what it is now. It was actually it was much more of a country town. And we weren't as open to diversity as we are now. So going back and thinking, actually, who were the people that helped me? And I had lots and lots of people that, would put up their hand, help me through things, help my family through things. And I just thought, actually, this is my time to give back and to do something that is going to contribute to the community and actually help people that really deserve and really need a home that they can feel safe in and feel like they are part of the community and feel valued and have something that is precious to them.
That's
So yeah, so
awesome.
that's how it started.
That is awesome. I love that, Alice. I love that. Has that always been, a part of, your DNA? Like, did your parents raise you that way to always be giving and, I suppose mindful of others? I mean, what was it like growing up that brought all these great attributes that you have now?
Oh, look, I think there's a lot of things that happened. I feel that in our lives, you know, it's very traditional for Asian backgrounds to give more than you receive. That's a very normal thing to
Mm,
do.
mm,
You
mm,
don't
mm,
go to anyone's house empty-handed when you visit.
mm,
You're always polite. You're always thinking of others. And I think also growing up, we were very, very fortunate, and we received a lot of help and a lot of kindness in our lives.
mm,
That's not to say we didn't have problems growing up or anything like that, but I guess it was just always one of those things. I've always thought, when I'm in a position to, I'd always love to give back. And it just happened that I fell into this space, and I just thought, actually, this is actually something really worthwhile doing.
I love that.
So it's just really important that we spread this message because it is possible.
I love
All
that.
you've got to do is dream it.
I love that. That's, the whole purpose driven attitude about you is just fantastic. It's honestly very, very proud of you. I'm going to say that, Alice. It's amazing work that you're doing. And all of our listeners are going to be saying the same thing. They're going to be like, oh, wow, this is incredible. The incredible work that you're doing, which is, it's just good. It's very, for lack of a better way of putting it, it's the Australian way, right? All Australians want access to having or owning their own home. It's a dream that everyone should be able to have.
Yeah, for
And,
sure.
I think I love that. I really do love that. That's great. I really, really do. Really good stuff. Alice, how can people find you? I mean, there's going to be people burning and sitting at the edge of their chair waiting for you to go and let them know how they can get in touch. How exactly can they get in touch, Alice?
Yeah, look, they can contact me on my website. So www.thehproject, the letter H project.com.au. They can catch me there. Or they can email me at alice@thehproject.com.au. That's
Fantastic.
probably the best way to start the process to get hold of me.
Absolutely. And if there's anyone that just wants to sort of, be in the know and see how you're going with your journey, is there any social media that you can share?
Yeah, sure. Look, I've got a social media, a Facebook page set up, which is the H Project WA. If you do a search on that, you'll see a little yellow house. That's me.
Yep.
So I'm on there. And haven't quite worked out Instagram yet, Dean, so I might need some help there.
That's all right. That's all right. We've got Linda. Linda can definitely help you. She's our Yeah, I swear she does so much work around our business, and you know what? Sometimes I like she goes, "Oh yeah, this has been done," and I go, "Huh." You know, she's lovely. So she absolutely, Alice, she can definitely give you a hand in setting that up as well. We'll get a TikTok going for you too. That'll be good. So good stuff.
Yes, my 8-year-old daughter
Good
will be
stuff.
loving that. So yes, but no,
And she'd be
amazing.
like,
Thank you so
"No
much for your
way,
time,
mom,
Dean.
you got a TikTok?"
She's
You're
like, I'm
very,
on
very
TikTok.
welcome.
Yeah.
All good, Alice. Not a problem at all. Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that. Now, good stuff. Well, look, Alice, thank you so much for your time. And for everyone listening at home, thank you so much for tuning in. And we'll see you again on the next one.